Welcome back. I'm Tedward and I'm fresh off the plane from California. Boston Motorsports calls me and says, "Hey, welcome back. Have you ever driven a 4x4 squared?" I said, "Well, no, I haven't." No further questions. I'm on my way. So this is a Mercedes-Benz G550 4x4 squared. I believe they've only imported 300 to the United States. Obviously, it's a little beefier than your typical G-Wagon, and all of the excitement comes from the outrageous suspension and portal axles. Yes, portal axles to get this 18-inch ground clearance. Now, to put that into perspective, a Ford Raptor has about 9-inch ground clearance, a little more, but not much more. This is 18, so this is a serious off-road machine, and you can see back here, these double shots with the remote reservoirs, it's just outrageous. But to fit these monster tires and suspension under the car, we've also got to widen it quite a bit. So these are carbon fiber fenders, and they are quite wide. You've got to be cautious because, to be honest, the G-Wagon, not a very wide vehicle. It's pretty easy to maneuver a G-Wagon around tight neighborhoods, whereas this, you need to be quite aware that you don't clip a sidewalk, although it really doesn't matter. You're not going to be curbing a wheel, but I guess we want to make sure we don't hit any cyclists. Because it's so large, you need to have the ambers up top, and of course, around back, we've got to have these 3 red lights, kind of like a semi-truck. The regular G-Wagon does not have this. A Ford Raptor gets away with it by putting those ambers in that grille. This has it up top on this really cool, let me try to climb up here, really cool carbon fiber thing on the roof, which is super neat, but it also has these bright LEDs. Unfortunately, for the US market, they don't work. I'm sure if you bought one of these for $200,000+, you'd be able to find a guy who could engage that. So hopefully, if you buy it, you've got a guy. And because it's so tall, to meet crash standards, we need to have this bar, sort of like a semi-truck. When you see a semi-truck, they've got that low bumper. That is so nobody gets decapitated if they rear-end your G-Wagon because they were distracted by its immense size. All right, let's take a look inside. Of course, we have the monster click of these doors. Loads of space back here for all of your children and off-roading needs, or probably scary artillery, because this thing screams, "Do not mess with me." Oh, I love the sound of a G-Wagon door. In the back, typical kind of hard to get in, not the most legroom back here. I am 5'9", I'm small, but I fit, it's not terrible. I mean, you're not getting a massive luxury vehicle when you buy a G-Wagon. I think it's really funny that this is a Mercedes-Benz because it's such a raw, old-school vehicle. I'm glad there's so much cachet behind it. But sometimes I feel like the people who buy them really didn't know what they were getting themselves into because they think it's like the pinnacle of Mercedes-Benz. But, I mean, it's a truck, even though it does have 3 selections for heated rear seats. Oof, it's pretty hard to get out because this fender and this door are very close together. But you came here to see me drive. Let's go see what it's like to drive this G-Wagon. I just took it out for a short hop, and my God, do I have a lot to say about this. Let's start it up. We have a side pipe exhaust, so we got to keep the door open in, AMG fashion. Let's see, if we put it in sport mode, does anything change? I can't tell the difference, doesn't matter. Let's go for a drive. The first thing you notice when you sit in here is that these are some pretty snug seats because the width of the vehicle, obviously very wide from the outside, but inside it's still a very narrow truck. I mean, those fenders don't translate to a wider interior space. And then down here, we go into drive, we've got a nice handbrake. Always like a handbrake. My goodness, buy it for the handbrake. Oof. Heavy steering from these portal axles. If you don't know what portal axles are, a normal truck, a normal car, has an axle that goes directly across to the center of each wheel. It goes through a center diff or whatever, and it goes, across. Well, portal axles are able to go through a geared system in the wheel, so that way you don't have that big pumpkin sitting in the middle of the car, and you can increase ground clearance significantly. Now, we have the drivetrain out of a G550, 416 horsepower, twin-turbo V8. Let's just stand on it. You definitely don't get that new G63 power, but it's plenty. And the purpose of this vehicle, hopefully, is not to be rocketing around like a psycho. More to be able to be capable to go anywhere and do anything you want, because it can go anywhere. The wild thing about having all this ground clearance isn't just that you could climb over curbs or rocks or basically go anywhere in the apocalypse. It's that you can also wade in massive puddles that are super deep and not drown this engine when you get back on power. So that's what's kind of cool about it, is that you'd be able to go through in the rainy season your favorite off-road trails and genuinely do things that I think maybe you'd have to have a group of friends with these, because unless they have snorkels, they probably won't be able to follow you. It should come as no surprise that the steering on this is quite a bit heavier than the standard G-Wagen. It is a very different vehicle. And while you can hit every single bump and not worry that you're going to damage anything, I would not call this a supple ride. I'm sure you could jump it. The funny thing about the 4x4 squared is that, yes, it's super outrageous, but because I know that I saw the 6x6 before I saw the 4x4, this almost was like a baby. It was like, oh, that's great. Normal people can buy that. Normal people for $250,000. But the 6x6 was so out there, was so outrageous, and we were seeing all kinds of like Instagram and YouTube content on the few that were made, that when this came out, it almost, I mean, dare I say normal. That's crazy. Ooh, there's a Raptor. You wish, baby. Actually, I do like the Raptor. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to try to be the elitist Mercedes driver in my off-road G-Wagen. Although, I do think this is what I would choose over that, just because it has quite a presence. Come on, buddy. You're good. You can make it. I think you can go a little bit faster in your Mazda. Mazda's a great company. They do some great engineering, and I don't think you need to take that corner quite so slow, hun. Okay, that's a little misogynist. I shouldn't say hun. All right, let's get into this corner. Wow. It's funny because it still handles. You can still kind of pitch it in. I do love the subtle rumble that comes out of this thing. It's not outrageous. I mean, you could probably make it more outrageous with an aftermarket exhaust. And I'm sure our golfer friends over here get to appreciate this a little bit. I'm sure it's louder from the outside, but we're fairly insulated. And, you know, the G-Wagen is always a tank. Even the locks, when you unlock and lock the doors, it'll startle you if you're not prepared for it. Let's see, pitch it into a corner, little bit of tire squeal. I never thought I would be doing that. Brakes work phenomenally well too. A little bit of traction control cut me off there. I think that's the beauty of the 4x4 squared, is that although, yeah, there's definitely heavier inputs and stuff, you can drive it like a normal vehicle. Once you get over the ride height and the steering inputs, you know, it's a grocery getter in day-to-day normal life. How odd is that? You know, we can roll up on a Wrangler with some beefy tires and let him know that he's just a little guy. You're just a little guy. So if you remember that Acura NSX that I had, that yellow press car, I loved it. I had it over the winter, and my week with that vehicle was cut short because of a flat tire that I got right here, right in this spot, somewhere in this like few 100-foot range. There was a pothole, didn't see it, it was covered in snow. Yeah, they've patched up a bunch of these things and nailed it. Soft Honda wheels, man. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately. And that was that. Now I'm driving it in a 4x4 squared. There's no chance you're going home without the wheels and tires you came with. These are massive and beefy. You're going to be just fine. If the state of New England roads continues on the path they're going, I think we're going to need to have 4x4 squares. All right, that's a little ridiculous, but goodness, it would be nice to have this in the winter. All right, you don't have to stop. We got plenty of room. Maybe I just have more visibility because I'm sat up high like a semi-truck. Oof, look at all that steering input. I mean, we're barely going around this corner. Woo! Do they make spec racers? Is there a spec 4x4 squared race that I can jump into? You know, there's not even that much body roll. I was kind of expecting this to be wicked roly-poly, but it's pretty rigid. Once you get used to it, you can just carve through traffic. This is great. There's actually like a little bit of torque. I don't know if it's torque steer, but I can tell that I need to like keep my hands on the wheel under acceleration. So let's take it into suburbia where it probably would live. I don't know that anyone in the city would necessarily benefit from parking this in a garage because I don't think it would fit in a garage. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too generous with its ride height or its ceiling height, but I don't know that you would be able to find yourself into a normal parking garage with the 4x4 squared. You may need to either build your own special garage that's both tall and wide enough for it, and make sure that you have a safe driveway to put it. Oh yes. It is fun to take a corner in it. Steering feels there. It's not non-existent. It's a little vague. I mean, you definitely need to have some amplification of power steering to compensate for the absurdity of what's going on in this front suspension. So you're going to lose some of that feel. But I don't feel disconnected like I thought I would. I honestly thought this would be a scarier drive. It's not so bad. All right, let's do a little braking test. We've got a straight line right here. Let's just stand on them. Ooh, you got to steer a little bit. It does a pretty good job balancing it out, but it's not going to go completely in a straight line. You're not going to want to do any panic stops from, 80 miles an hour. It will get you down there, though. It's not bad. Frankly, this is an odd vehicle. Nobody really needs it. Well, most people don't really need this vehicle because if you're really looking for like straight up off-roading, you wouldn't go and buy a $250,000 truck with a nice paint job and carbon fiber bits that you're going to rip off with rocks and branches and all the things you're going to do on actual trail. But the thing is, there's people with money who do want to have like kind of the joy and hilarity of taking this off-road and genuinely using that. And for that, I applaud them. Now, for the average user, maybe you're stretching yourself because this is just like the image you want. It's the status. It's got all the things, and it's going to make you and your friends laugh. You're going to smile every time you get in it. I don't know that every Mercedes dealership works on these. I mean, obviously, from a powertrain standpoint, it's a G550. Anyone can change the oil and do that thing. If you have an issue with the portal axles, though, I hope you've got a guy. I hope you know who to work with. I'm sure Boston Motorsports can work on these. They've got pretty incredible technicians to do all their supercars. So, if you bought it from a place like that, I think you're in the clear. If you are buying one of these on the used market, just like from a guy, like, I don't know, do you find this on Craigslist? Is that a thing? Make sure you know who's going to be working on your vehicle because you may not be able to. Although, if you're going to do your own work, if you're going to do your own basic maintenance, how easy does it get? You can crawl under this with ease. You could genuinely do a lot of work without putting it up on a lift or ramps. Just make sure that you have the space to park it. So, massive thank you to Boston Motorsports in Brighton, Massachusetts, part of the McGovern Auto Group, for letting me take this 4x4 squared out. It's a hoot. You don't need to go crazy. The joy just comes from getting in and driving it. Thank you guys for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. No turn on red. Oh, we got a green arrow. Destiny. And a special thanks to the Patreon supporters for making this content possible. Whether you're donating $1 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, everything counts. It's incredible to see the support. It really genuinely helps make this content happen. Back to the highway. Woo! Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. look at this, on a Boston highway, approaching Boston, all the potholes, all the reasons I don't drive my air-cooled 911 into the city is a joy, a pleasure even, to drive the 4x4 squared, because every bump I see, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's built for it. It's great. You're not going to harm it.